Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today on Latakian's Nor Kitchen we're gonna make beef stroganoff. That's right, if you had that most knowledgeable, most well-traveled food writers in the world compile a list of all-time most delicious foods, there are only a handful of recipes that will make almost of them, and this incredibly delicious Russian dish will be one of them. And if you hadn't had this before, you know what? You seriously need to watch the rest of the video so you can make some. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by cutting up our beef. So you're gonna need 2 pounds of beef chuck. Talk to your butcher, they're very nice. Ask if you could have a beef that come from a single muscle or as close to it as possible. That way you don't get anywhere like pieces of membrane going through or big sections of fat, alright? So I'm gonna take my piece of beef chuck, I'm gonna cut it in like, I don't know, maybe 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick sticks, and then just cut it in like 1/2 inch width pieces. I think the French term for this is bacon, but I call it little stripes of beef. Your personal exact shape and size doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent. And then once those are cut, we're gonna go ahead to salt them generously, and then a pinch of black pepper on your cutting board. Next, we need to head over to the stove where I have my large heavy pan on high heat. Alright, you want to use a large good pan for this. I'm gonna put some olive oil with a spoon of butter for that good taste, you know, and then as soon as it starts to shimmer and almost smoke, I'm gonna throw in my meat. Now, you always hear on TV, don't crowd your pan. You know what, for this cut of meat, particularly for this recipe, you can go ahead and crowd the pan. What happens when you crowd the pan? And as you can see, before it all browns nicely, the water is released and it starts to sort of simmer in its own juices. This would be terrible for certain cuts of meat, but because we're using chunks, and because this is gonna simmer for a long time and get tender, so it's okay. What you're gonna do next is you're gonna keep it on medium heat. The liquid's gonna come out, then it's gonna boil off, and then the meat's gonna get brown in its own juices. It's a beautiful thing. Alright, look at that. Perfect. And then once our meat is nice and browned, we're gonna pull it off onto a plate to reserve. And then again to our cutting board, where I will cut in slices about 1 pound of onions. Well, for this recipe you need a lot of onions, so don't hesitate to add the amount you like. And then once our onions are cut and nice, we're gonna head over to the stove, and here please try to use the same pan. Alright, don't worry about the pan, I want all those beautiful brown bits over there. And then we're gonna toss in the onions that we roughly sliced. Next, we're gonna go ahead to toss in some thickly sliced mushrooms. I bought them from the market, they were canned, and that's what I found there, but if you have fresh mushroom, that's okay. For me, I prefer the canned one because the texture is so much different from the fresh one. But anyway, you can go ahead and choose the kind of mushroom that you like. Now we're gonna give that a nice pinch of salt, and we'll need to saute that in the butter on medium heat until nicely browned. And one thing that happens when we do this kind of technique, the mushroom will also give up some liquid along with the onions, which some kind of deglazes the pan a little bit, and those mushrooms starts to absorb all that beautiful flavor from the beef drippings. Now once it's all nicely brown, I'm gonna add a couple cloves of garlic, then just give it a swirl for about 30 seconds. Next, I'm gonna throw in 2 tablespoons of flour, then stir that in and cook that for another minute or 2 or 3. And then our liquid. So in a cup of hot water, we're gonna add 1 stock cube or bouillon cube, whether you prefer them to be chicken, veal or beef. Well, that's up to you. Then let's stir that in the water until it dissolves, and then we get that liquid. Toss it in on the pan and let that come to a simmer. Again, we're still on medium heat. It's gonna thicken up a little bit. I'm gonna scrape and make sure I got all that beautiful goodness of the bottom of the pan. Now it's the time to introduce the beef, so we're gonna add our beef back. Alright, at that point we need to make sure that's all mixed together nice and evenly. And if you feel that your sauce has thickened up and you need to add more water, like 1/2 cup or a cup, then go ahead. We're gonna bring it up to just barely simmering. See that just a little bit of a bubble there? Alright, turn it down now, turn the heat down, then let's go ahead and cover it, and we're gonna just let this raise for about an hour. Maybe every, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, give it a stir. Now, depending on your beef and how you cut it, this is gonna take a little bit more or a little bit less. So you're gonna have to play it by ear, but I guess at about an hour you should be getting close. So if your meat is still not as tender as you want, add another splash of water or stock and let it simmer a little longer. And once you decide your meat is pretty much ready, the last step is stirring in a cup of whipped cream. Give it a good stir. Now, of course, every time we do dishes like this, it's up to you to adjust. Do you want it saucier? Then you should use a little more beef stock or whipped cream. And if you want it drier, don't put as much. Up to you. And by the way, if you happen to be wondering why the wall is stained, well, that's because I did it when I was setting up this recipe, which on camera I found it distracting, so I actually spent about half an hour learning how to blur out a part of a video, which I have to say was surprisingly exciting that I wasn't able to do it. But I have to learn that, so it might come in handy in the future in case I made a bigger stain. But anyway, back to the beef. And once the whipped cream is mixed in there, you're gonna go ahead and taste for salt and pepper, and we're done. I highly recommend it gets served over beautifully buttered rice or noodle. I like those rice along with the beef meat, so delicious. Alright, time to taste this amazing Russian recipe. Also, you don't have to put the whipped cream. I like to top mine with a little bit more of whipped cream. I'm gonna be putting in the spoon to taste it. This is just one of my favorite beef recipes of all time. Let me taste. Oh my god, so amazing. So anyway, head over to the description box where you can see the ingredients amounts written as usual. It's a restaurant quality recipe where you can easily make at home. And if you liked my video, please make sure to subscribe, like, follow and share so it can help me get more people to reach Latakian's Nor Kitchen. See you later.